Welcome, everybody, to the Greenfork Food for Thought podcast. Today's guest is Dr. Craig Nelson. He is a chiropractor and he's the owner of Intrinsic Chiropractic here in Wilton, New York. I've known him for a few years myself. He's worked on me. He's worked on my son. He's a great guy. We love him. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So just tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got started into chiropractic care.
I was actually born in the place where chiropractic was started, Davenport, Iowa.
Cool.
So I grew up around the original school. I grew up with my family going to chiropractors, and my grandma had a scoliosis that was so significant she couldn't even fit on a 14-inch X-ray slide.
Wow.
So it was pretty integrated quickly. My uncle's a chiropractor, so I was a little introduced to that, although they lived far away, but still.
Yeah.
So all my life I was an athlete, and it just seemed to be, a kind of a good fit. My journey took me, a little circuitous around to get to it, but it was good.
What else did you do?
Well, I grew up I moved to my dad's house in Massachusetts when I was 17, and he's in the trade. So I was in construction for a long time.
Okay.
Putting myself through school and learning the trades, which I still do today. I mean, it's been as beneficial for me to learn that as it has been for chiropractic care. For treatment, and so put myself through school. I actually started in Suffolk University in downtown Boston for business.
Cool.
So going to play basketball for them, or I played basketball for them. And after a year, I'm like, this is not working for me.
Yeah.
And I always had the back of my head that I wanted to be a chiropractor. So I transferred out, started community college, and started the process of all the sciences, and went down that road.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I imagine you have just like this integrated thing in you that you just want to help people, right, to feel better.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. No doubt. And I think figuring out why people are injured the way they're injured.
Yep.
Figuring out all the precision and all the compensations and what's the actual problem.
Yep.
What's the symptom, and kind of breaking it down. And I've always been a relatively high level athlete in whatever I do. So figuring out the biomechanics of how everything works, and efficiency of movement and breakdown of movement is huge.
Yeah. The human body is amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a never ending process.
It never ending. I've been doing this for 25 years, and it's we all have the same parts.
Yep.
Literally.
Yeah.
So figuring out why certain people break down, certain people don't break down.
Yeah.
How does it move, and and it's everyone's algorithm is different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though we have the same parts. So that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
It is not a one size treats all. And it's not even each visit is the same.
Right.
If I'm doing my job right, the body is evolving.
Yep.
Things are changing. So my initial assessment, if I kept doing the same things I did then, a month later, I'm not doing my job because people aren't changing.
Yep.
Right. So it's figuring out those patterns, and that's why I named it Intrinsic Chiropractic, because intrinsic are the small support muscles of the body.
Yeah.
Right. So I start from the inside out, trying to figure out how true internal function.
Yeah.
And then from that function, how do we move? So it's, I love it, but everyone's different. I learn something from patients every day.
Yeah. Everybody has their own movement patterns and maybe underlying things that, influence the way they move, like scoliosis or whatever, arthritis, whatever the case may be. And everybody is a case by case basis. And then, like you said, it evolves over time. So it's like this constantly moving equation that you're trying to figure out. And
there's always a moment in time in which an injury occurs.
Yeah.
Right. So, I can tell. I had a patient last week that we started, and I'm like, well, where was the car accident?
Yeah.
And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, you were hit, on the left side in a T-bone.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I wasn't. And he came back the next day. He goes, bro, I was 8 years old. I'm like, yeah. He goes, and that's exactly right. I was hit on the left side.
Yeah.
Because you can feel what the body does.
Yeah.
And it's almost like when I put my hands on someone, my brain is feeling what I feel, and then you can, from that discern where the injury is from, what's tight, what's loose, and it's nothing by accident.
Yeah.
It doesn't just happen.
Right.
And that's, people who aren't getting results is because the symptoms are being treated, not the cause.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the, unfortunately, that's what happens to a lot of people.
Yeah. And there's things that you can do over time that make that worse, right?
Well, we compensate.
Right.
Right. So, when we start compensating, the human body is so amazing.
Yeah.
Right. We start compensating for that weakness or that injury, but then as we age, our ability to compensate becomes less and less.
Yeah.
And by the time we get to where it becomes a chronic condition, there are so many layers on top of that original injury.
Yeah.
That we have to unpack.
Yeah.
And get to the root core of.
Yeah.
But that's why, people start breaking down, and that's where these injuries that just never go away.
Yeah, it's a long process.
It's a long process.
Yeah.
For sure.
So tell me about that process, the basic principles of your practice. I know you have
Sure.
the three-prong attack, so to speak.
Yeah, so, I have, the three arrows. I kind of came up with the logo, but it's, the way I look at it is every musculoskeletal injury is a joint problem, a muscle problem, and an inflammatory problem. Period. End of story.
Okay.
Right. So whether that be a toe, a knee, an ankle, a hip, an elbow, a wrist, a spine, whatever it may be, that is a musculoskeletal injury. So from a joint standpoint, when I'm evaluating someone, I'm looking at the movement of their joints. Yep. Is the joint mobile or is it not mobile? Yeah. God gave us joints so we can move. Yeah. But we suffer injuries and the joints become immobile. So the question is why, right? The answer that I've come up with over the years is that joint is under load. So when a joint is under load, the body starts making it stuck or not move. It joins with the other joints to try to gain stability.
Right,
compensates. So it compensates. So your brain is literally choosing stability at a cost of mobility. Right. Right. And the most simple explanation of this is when you roll your ankle and it swells, that swelling is creating a cast to immobilize the joint. Right. Well, every joint suffers the same things, just on different levels. And so if it's a smaller joint with a smaller joint capsule, you still have inflammation filling that space to stop that motion to make it immobile. Right. So, and if the joint is immobile, then it's going to affect the muscles. Right. So from a muscle breakdown, I talk about two different types of muscles: muscles that support our bones and muscles that move our bones. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So in an injury where the muscles that support the bones become injured, they either become weakened or they stop functioning. In that moment, the body takes on the compensatory action where it takes the movement muscles and it makes them tighter to help support the support muscles. Right. And that's that chronic muscle tension that we feel. So when we have a muscle spasm, I'm just tight. Yeah. Well, you're tight because you're compensating. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So as you continue, and again, as you're younger, those fibers can compensate pretty well. You can get away with a lot of crap. Yeah. Right. Yeah. But over time, as you continue to compensate, those fibers start breaking down. So now you're having muscular injuries, tendinopathies, on those structures that have been overworked for so long. Yeah. Right. So as those tissues start breaking down, then the body starts treating that. So when muscle fibers break, adhesions form within the cells. Yeah. Right. And those adhesions are like a Band-Aid, and they're meant to be temporary. But when the muscle stays under tension, more fibers break, more adhesions form, and then we have now scar tissue. Now, when we have enough cells that are scar tissue, we've lost our flexibility within the soft tissue structure, which then is putting now more load on the very joint that is trying to protect. Yeah. So this cascade of events that happens within that biomechanical pattern is over and over and over again, and becomes repetitive. And within that, there's inflammatory cycles. When people have an acute flare-up, of course, there's inflammation. And more inflammation, then that fills the joint space, and the inflammation becomes a chemical irritant on the nerves, and then we feel discomfort. Right. Nerves don't float around looking for pain. Right. Something has to affect the nerve in order for us to feel pain or discomfort. right? And we have different types of nerves, different types of sensing nerves, pain, pressure, and all of that. So, when those nerves are activated, we get the signal. Our brain gets the signal, right? So then when our brain gets the signal, then it sends the signal back on how to try to react to compensate for that signal. And that just layers and layers and layers.
Yeah. So then your job is like a problem that starts from the inside out, you got to go from the outside in.
So I take it the opposite. I start from the inside
Okay.
with the intrinsic muscle activation. So it's more functional,
Right.
right? So all of my patients, I can give them the exercises we're going to do,
Yeah.
and they're going to go home and do them wrong because they're doing it in a compensatory manner.
Right.
Right. And that's why, going to the gym can get some results, but as soon as you stop going, you start hurting again because you've lost your compensation.
Yeah.
Right. And same with some of the physical therapy stuff is, you can go do all these stuff that I have, the bands and the weights, but if you're not firing the right muscles, you're just feeding into the problem.
Yeah.
Right. So what my patients really need me for the most is to get their brain to learn how to engage the right muscle at the right time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And without that, it's over.
Yeah.
It's over.
Yeah. I remember when I saw you one time, it was because of my low back. I think I had a slightly bulging disc that happened, and you had me on a ball just trying to use my hips to activate the hips in a way that I hadn't done before. And it's really hard. It's these really small movements that you have to activate muscles that, maybe don't have that neural connection yet.
Right.
Or not as strong.
So that exercise is activating a muscle called multifidus, right? So multifidus is the deepest layer of the spine and pelvis. So the exercise that I do is actually, they're exercises of exclusion. I had you rotating your pelvis, and I know that if you are doing the motion and not recruiting your legs or your upper back, then we're indeed engaging the multifidus.
Right.
But all of these intrinsic muscles are autonomic controlled muscles. We don't voluntarily control them.
Yeah.
So the only way to get them to engage is to know that you're doing a motion without engaging other things.
Right.
Right. And so that's what I say about functional stuff. And it's the same for the neck. If you have headaches, if you have vertigo, if you have dizziness, if you have tinnitus, all those things are posterior neck related. Yeah. And if you can't learn how to engage the stability muscle of the neck, which is the longest colli in front, your posture and your head is going to stay supported improperly.
Yeah.
Right. And then when you talk about your disc, well, how does a disc become bulged? Yeah. Right. The disc becomes bulged because it's under pressure. Yeah. Well, how is it under pressure? It's under pressure because the muscles that are there to support it aren't working. Yeah. So that load is sitting on the disc, which is then squishing the disc and not allowing it to get the nutrients back and forth, so it stays, bulged. Yeah. And ultimately, then it becomes herniated. Yeah. And then ultimately, there's a nerve problem. Yeah. So people who have chronic back problems, all of a sudden, 15 years later, oh, now I need back surgery. That was the problem all along. Yeah. No, that wasn't the problem. The surgery is the end problem. Yeah. The degeneration was the problem because of the internal weakness all along.
Yeah. So you got to try to catch those things early.
At any point, even post-operatively. Yeah. So it depends on where it goes. Yeah. But if you don't change that load, if you don't change that stability, it's still your body's gonna continue to behave in the same pattern. Yeah.
In a more layman's way of looking at it, it's like, the bigger muscles kind of take over. Yeah. Right? And the smaller ones fall by the wayside and don't get used. Yeah. And that's what causes the compensation. The bigger muscles want to work harder, and then they get chronically tight and overworked. Right. And then that causes problems.
Correct. Yeah. Exactly right. And that's and we all know, when you have tight muscles, you can go get a massage. Yeah. You can all do a lot of things to treat those muscles, and you feel better for a day, but it comes right back. Yeah. Because they're not the problem.
Yeah. I've always thought that like the perfect recovery day would be like go see a chiro, get in line, get massaged, and then do some PT stuff. Yeah. Some cold plunge, sauna, whatever. And that would be like, if you could do that every day, start your day that way.
Life would be good.
That'd be good.
Life would be good.
It'd be the best way to prevent injury. But let's talk about preventative care, right? Yeah. So, it's super important. A lot of times in the current system that we have, we wait till it's surgery time, or we wait till there's a really bad injury or too much pain. And we don't often think about doing preventative care, even if there's nothing that you can sense that's wrong.
Right.
You know, whether it's your bones, whether it's your muscles, or nutritionally speaking, right?
Yeah.
Like we don't think about these things until there's a problem.
Yes.
Why is it so important to just get checked out or get regular chiro care, even if there is no injury?
So preventative, now you open a can of worms.
Yeah, let's go there.
Right, now let's go there. Okay, so from a musculoskeletal preventative, right, to me, function's number one.
Yep.
Right, so if you can go through the 5 or 6 minute functional exercise routine to know that you're engaging all of those support muscles, keeping them firing, that's your self-support preventative care.
Yeah.
So getting a functional assessment, making sure that you are firing, not in compensatory mode, is number one.
Yeah.
Right. Number two on preventative care, making sure that the joints are mobile.
Yeah.
Now, if the support muscles are firing and functional, the need for a checkup, if you will, to make sure everything's firing right, our joint mobility is right, is maybe once a month.
Yeah.
And that's just to make sure we catch things before they become a problem.
Right.
Because again, if the joint isn't moving, those muscles turn off.
Mm-hmm.
So that's end of story.
Yeah.
But if the muscles are supporting, the joints relatively stay mobile. They literally go hand in hand.
Yeah.
So coming in for once a month, just assessment to make sure everything's mobile, especially if you're active. Especially if you're training for something.
Yeah.
Especially if you have a job where you're sitting for a long time.
Yeah.
All the postural stuff.
Yeah.
And I think most people can get away with that.
Yeah.
Once we get down to that point, if someone comes in and they're full of compensations and scar tissue, then we got to deal with some more soft tissue maintenance to make sure that things don't go backwards.
Yeah.
But also we're talking about musculoskeletal stuff, and we talk about self-care, then we start getting into our emotional state, and our flow, which is paramount. So the older I get, the more I'm understanding my true self, the more taking care of that is key. When we live in an excited state where we're not true to ourselves and our ego's leading, then we have a situation where we're always, living in the past, or we're fearing the future.
Yeah.
So when we live in that state, which I think the vast majority of people do, our elevated levels of hormones and muscle tension, and cortisol levels, and and all of that starts affecting our musculoskeletal system.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we have, again, as we talked in the beginning about, we all have the same parts. Well, what's the difference between a cadaver and the person working on the cadaver?
Yeah.
Right. Life force.
Yeah.
Right. Because the parts are still there.
Yeah.
Right. So then how do we take in all of the external environment, and let it affect us or not let us affect us, so we can stay present in this world that is pretty tumultuous.
Yeah. How can you regulate your nervous system?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think getting back to that perfect day, we don't need to go and get a chiropractor, get a massage, meditate, whatever. It can be a 10-15 minute little warm up, run through your PT exercises, run through your mobility drills before you work out, or before you do something active, or before you sit in a chair.
Yeah.
And just have that mental awareness of how your body is moving today.
Right.
And then, getting into, your emotional state, like doing things like, putting the right type of music on that fits your vibe for the day, or maybe a little 5-minute meditation before you get going into this super stressful day. And that can definitely, I know from my own experience that as I've gotten older, before I work out, I need to do those things.
Yes.
Just to put me in the right mental state. Whereas, ego driven, you go in the gym, no warm up, just start cranking the weights. Yeah. Because I used to be able to bench, whatever.
Right.
I'm just going to hop right on and do that. And that just doesn't work for me anymore.
Right.
You got to see where you're at that day, which I think is hard to do for a lot of people.
It's really hard to do. And I think if you're in touch with that part of yourself, then all the other external stresses of the day are also reduced.
Yeah.
When we talk about what causes, beyond physical trauma, we have emotional trauma, we have environmental trauma, all of these things that we take on affect our machine.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, ignoring that portion of, the life cycle and our daily cycle, leads to these chronic injuries and these chronic inflammation,
Yeah.
And
Do you think that people hold stress in certain points of their or parts of their body, and that like influences how they move?
without a doubt.
Yeah.
Right. So you take someone who is, typically most people feel stress in their traps and their upper back. Right.
Yeah.
So you take that person who is, and then that muscle tension creates a signal in your brain because it's tight.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then we have stress, which all of us feel stress there.
Yeah.
But they're already firing.
Yeah.
Right. So now you're getting two modes of muscle contraction into the same area.
Yeah.
So then how are we, and then if we're sitting at a computer, then how is that going to affect our posture?
Yeah.
And then sitting in that all day is going to keep loading that signal, and that signal keeps firing.
Yeah.
And not only does it amp up our physical stress, but it amps up our ability to handle emotional stress.
Yeah.
Because you're already getting the signal that something is wrong.
Yeah.
And that's your chronic headaches, and it's that cycle. So getting patients or people to not only functionally engage those muscles, but to be able to tune in with what their mind is doing.
Yeah.
To kind of correct that as it goes.
Yeah, I find myself just throughout the day sometimes in periods of stress or anything, just kind of taking a breath, sitting back, roll my shoulders, fix my posture, that kind of thing. Just every half hour, every hour, just kind of check in.
Right.
Because it just reinforces that. If you're stressed and whatever, and you're sitting there like this on front of your computer, I start to feel it after a while. I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't right.
Right.
Stop, reset, do something.
Yeah, it's proprioception, our body's awareness of its place in space.
Yep.
So when you're used to being rounded and forward, that becomes your set point.
Yeah.
So changing that set point so then you have awareness, is huge.
Yeah.
And that doesn't change unless there's change, and there's a conscious change and there's a subconscious change.
Yeah, there's got to be a motivator there somewhere, and whatever that is different for everybody.
Right. And it's that position with the head forward. The head is 14 to 16 pounds.
Yeah.
That's a lot of load on the cervical spine.
Yeah.
And when it's forward and you lose your ability to support it, then we get into all your degenerative disc stuff.
Yeah. Do you work with a lot of kids that have text neck?
Oh, tons of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's
they're always like this.
Always.
And I find myself like
all
that
of
too.
us.
Yeah.
All of us, and once typically when a patient comes in, I'll use the kinesio tape and I'll tape their scapula and retraction, right? So they can get a sense of where they should be.
Yeah.
But what it really does is gives them a sense of the tape of the pulling when they shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Right. So giving that signal, that artificial signal, changes their awareness.
Yep.
And that awareness, then we can make change.
Yeah. That's the biggest step right there is just being aware of what's actually happening.
And understanding that any passive treatment, meaning where the patient lays there and does nothing, whether that be an adjustment. And when people come in here, I hope I give them the best, most specific adjustment ever.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because it's passive.
Yeah.
Right? Massages are passive. Injections are passive. Medications are passive. If the patient does nothing and has everything done to them, long-term changes can't be made.
Yeah.
End of story.
Yeah.
Right. So the only way to make actual changes is that the person, the soft tissue, has to change on their own volition.
Yeah, absolutely. I talk about that all the time with my personal training clients and group clients. I'm like, I see you for an hour a day.
Yeah.
There's, 9 other hours in the day where you're not sleeping. And even when you are sleeping, your posture is important. But the point is, you have to continue to do things on your own to support this change, or else it's not going to happen. An hour a day, 15 minutes a day on the table, it's not going to change.
It's not going to change anything. Yeah. Right. It hopefully motivates them to know how they can feel. Yeah. But I don't even do exercises on day one because I want them to feel better leaving.
Yeah.
When they come in for visit 2 and we start with the functional exercises, I tell them, you're not going to feel good today.
Yeah.
Because as soon as I try to engage one muscle and I know something else is going to engage, we're literally triggering the problem.
Yeah.
right? So the next week or two of care, as we're changing that functional state, patients here don't necessarily feel better.
Yeah.
And, and I say to them, I'm going to ask you how you feel. I don't particularly care because I care about the change that's happening.
Right.
But once we have function and once they can hold that adjustment,
yeah,
then they start feeling the way they do on day one all the time.
Yeah.
Now you're talking about real change.
Yeah.
In
It's a slow process.
Yeah, but that's, for the years that they've been this way, it's relatively quick, but you still need the mentality to know that, this isn't happy, feel good in the beginning. This is coming to get change.
Yeah, you're working on years of imbalances, and it's not going to change in an hour.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And certainly there's treatments that I can do that would passively make them feel better, but why bother? It's not going to hold.
Yeah.
So it's one of those where, from a business standpoint, I don't really blow smoke, and this is about coming here for change.
Right.
And if you don't want to change, then I'm not the right guy for you. There's plenty of places to go to get cracked once a week and feel good, and go back and get the same crack and come back and get the same crack, and those providers provide a great service for that, but that's just not how I provide it.
Yeah, you're in it for real change, not just,
I would like permanent change.
Yeah.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Yeah, that's good. I think, I think it's important to have people that are working on that and not just in it for the money.
Definitely not in it for the money.
Yeah.
But it's money. We all need money, but and to be efficient, right? If I do my job, you don't really need me.
Yeah.
And that's the goal.
Yeah, I say that too. With my clients, I'm like, my goal is to teach you how to exercise properly.
Yeah.
Give you the tools you need so that you don't need to come back to me.
Right.
You should be with me maybe a year and then have learned enough that you can take it from here.
Yeah. I mean, my average treatment plan is probably 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And with that, and it's funny because people are like, oh, I'm not going to refer people here because I want my spot. I'm like, well, you're not going to be here very long.
Right.
So please do, because it takes, in order for me to stay busy the way I practice, it takes a lot of new patients, and thank God I'm blessed in that way. But it's my intent is never to hold.
Right.
And that's and when you brought up sleep earlier and sleeping position.
Yeah.
Just kick it back to those support muscles or those intrinsic muscles that work autonomically.
Yeah.
Right. They work when we sleep.
Yeah.
So those people who wake up stiff in the morning, we know that those muscles aren't working.
Yeah.
Right. And so, because they're autonomic. So once we get them firing, it's amazing how that stiffness and that sleeping pain kind of goes away because they have support while they sleep.
Yeah. I slept like this last night.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to go to the gym after this and kind of try to work it out a little bit. But, people's sleeping positions, my shoulders jacked up from that. Sometimes I'll wake up and get like the deepest, loudest cracks in my hip and my shoulder and stuff. But it's because I'm, and it's unintentional. It's like, I'll go to sleep. I'll try to sleep on my back, head slightly elevated, whatever. But then one way or another, I end up on my side. I'm just a side sleeper.
I can't sleep on my back.
Yeah.
People ask me, and I'm like, I'll be a hypocrite if I tell you how to sleep. They say you're supposed to sleep on your back, but I can't do it.
Yeah.
And changing your sleeping position is next to impossible.
Right. But you can try.
You can try.
Yeah.
You can try. So what I say is just make sure you do your stability work beforehand.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a morning routine. I have an evening routine before bed, and it's physical as well as mental. There's a lot built into it at this point.
Right.
As you said, as we get older, there's a lot of things that come into play, and just keeping the body and mind in a good state.
Yeah.
So it takes a little more work as you get older, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
You can imagine what it'd be like if I didn't do those things or didn't have that awareness.
Well, and I wonder if we are better at teaching the younger generation, how to be in touch with themselves, and on what, as far as like a consciousness would be, on how this world goes.
Yeah, I've raised my son to, like, I don't care about his grades. I've always told him that. I care about your attitude and your effort. And some of the things I've been trying to teach him as he grows into a young man are, what are your established set of values? How do you move through this world? How do you carry yourself? How do you treat others?
Right.
But what's important to you? Let's identify that, and then, you know, you can operate how you want to in this world, but
Right.
there's just certain few things that, like emotional regulation,
Correct.
Good healthy exercise and movement, proper nutrition, you know, all the things that I've learned through trial and error.
Right.
That my dad didn't teach me.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly. You know, and so hopefully we can, you know, instill that in the younger generation, because they're, you know, the pressures on them seem even greater than were on us.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
and
a new world.
right, and you know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
On how the world moves, you know.
For sure. Yeah, you see the old movies where like people predict the future and we're all just sitting in chairs with like feeding tubes and we're sitting in front of a TV and a computer.
Yeah.
Like, let's hope it's not that.
Oddly, there's some movies that have been pretty freaking accurate that are like, you would think no way.
Idiocracy.
But we are on the precipice of all of that.
Yeah. So, I mean, the only thing you can do is teach.
Yeah.
You know, and try it and hope it sticks.
Right.
Yeah. So I've always been curious because I watch these videos online. I was telling you about this before, about like the ASMR, which is just kind of this relaxing feeling that you get when you listen to rain or like watch somebody slice a cake perfectly. And there's a lot of chiropractors out there that make videos and put the mic like right up against a joint, and just that sound, and you can imagine what the feeling is like, and it kind of gives you a sense of calm and ease, and it happens to me. What actually happens when you crack a joint?
So,
or like move it or whatever.
Every joint, every bone that touches another bone, you know, is connected by a joint capsule, right? And in that capsule is fluid.
Synovial fluid.
Synovial fluid. So when a joint becomes fixed, there is a vacuum effect in where the synovial fluid creates a pocket, right? So when you give the adjustment, then you release that pocket, and that's what gives you the quote unquote cracking sound.
Yeah.
So it's not bone snapping over bones, right? But with that, there's an endorphin release.
Yeah.
Right. So and like anything else, I think if you've experienced it and then you sense it through your eyes, you're probably getting a pseudo endorphin release by watching the videos.
Yeah.
You know, like, and because in your head, you're like, oh, that must have felt so good.
Yeah.
Right. So then in that you're feeding that dopamine response.
Yeah.
You know, by watching it.
And I think a lot of the videos that I've seen, they're starting to play into, they're like chiropractor influencers, kind of, where they're starting to play into the emotional aspect of it.
Right.
Where someone comes in, they've been in a car accident and they've had chronic pain. You watch them move beforehand, and severe back problems, and they run them through the whole adjustment, and then you know they're done. They ask them how they feel. A lot of times there's an emotional release.
Right.
And it's just like, wow, the power in that is really...
Yeah, and that is true, especially for the upper cervical.
Yeah.
When you release that, I can't tell you how many times people just start spontaneously crying.
Yeah.
Because of that emotional release and hold.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it goes into, you know, a whole lot of different levels depending on how you want to look at it.
Yeah.
You know, the sense of relief, the sense of mobility, trapped energy.
Yeah.
You know, that shit's real.
Oh yeah.
You know, and we, you know, again, back to those traumas, right? And that trapped energy, we're holding that in, and that influences, you know, how our entire system responds to our movements in our day to day. And it's the older I get, the more I am very attuned into that is real. When I first started my career, musculoskeletal, biomechanical only.
Science.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about any of that other stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And in school, we're, you know, you know, they call it the 3 T's, trauma, thoughts, and toxins.
Okay.
As the cause of the joint subluxation.
Yeah.
You know, and I was one of those guys that was like, you know, these guys are out of their effing minds.
Yeah.
Right. This is a mechanical problem.
Yeah.
But as I become older and more tuned and deal with my own shit.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, you know what? I think they're right.
Yeah.
You know, and we're seeing as a society, you know, as we move into more trauma work and emotional stored energy, and it's like, yeah, you know what? And you know, 5,000 years of Chinese medicine isn't wrong either.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You know, and all of these motions and the Tai Chis and all of the energy movement.
Yeah.
Things that have been around for centuries.
Yeah.
You know, are right.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's almost like from a treatment of the human standpoint, I feel like we're almost we've almost been in the dark ages, and we're going back into an inward enlightenment that is, goes beyond what, why the hell are we here?
Yeah. Yeah, there's certain things that are beyond our understanding, and you just have to,
right.
I don't know, I want to say guess at it, but kind of, give it some thought and give it some validity.
Yeah,
for sure.
Nothing happens by circumstance.
Right.
And the amount of things that are actually in our control is very little.
Very little.
And so and how does that work? And what does our tone? What is our vibration? What is our energy? When a person with bad energy walks in the room, everyone knows it.
Yep.
When someone with good energy walks in, everyone's attracted to it.
Yeah.
Unless you have low energy, then you repel from it. And
right.
What is that? How do animals sense things that we don't?
Yeah.
And how does that play into our human experience?
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild to think about, but I think being in healthcare and just helping people, you do go beyond just the physical. Like, I think everybody's part therapist, whether you're
100%,
you're a chiro or a trainer or a massage therapist or any of the people I've talked to on this podcast.
Anyone who gives a shit.
Right. Yeah, because you don't just want to have them come in, boom, boom, you're done. See ya.
Right.
You want to give care to these patients.
And I think so. In my prior practice, where I had more providers and a lot more staff, I got to a point where I was just adjusting patients because I had so many. The practice was seeing like 800 patients a week, and I was not getting the human interaction in which I built the practice on. So my fuel tank was getting emptied because I didn't have that. And yes, I was making a lot more money, but my personal emotional health was in the tank. So as life evolves, like, what is it about? And that's exactly. So when you become a therapist, or when you do that, when you're helping other humans based on your own experience, and we have the as a trainer and as a provider, we have the experience of being with a lot of different people. And you start realizing that there's so many similarities, right? We're all enjoying similar things, we're all suffering the same things, and when you can when you can make someone not be an island and let them have the comfort that they're not in this alone, it's incredibly powerful.
Yes, it is.
And we're not meant to be alone. And so I think that's the best part. And I do want to know how everyone's kids are doing. I do care what the grandkids are doing, and not from a business standpoint, but from a human standpoint. And that's what I love about this office. The way I have it now is very chill, but it is very family. And we have some funny stuff, and I'm easy to poke fun at, and I take it. And my life's an open book, and all my trials and tribulations, and because I'm human. And sharing that experience is what we have.
It doesn't have to be or feel so sterile.
No, or unapproachable. Right? Because there's no, there's what's the difference between you and I?
Not much.
Not much. Right. And if we take that experience across everyone we encounter, even when we get mad or frustrated, and realize that, beyond circumstance, beyond, whatever our guiding force is, we're all the same. And kind of that, helps kind of bring back into, helping people and not being an island is really where it's at. And going into, resiliency. I think around here from a musculoskeletal standpoint, I'm building resiliency back to function, but then, on a whole health, more cellular resiliency for being sick, for handling emotional traumas, and is how we're going to stay healthier for longer. You get into how do we get sick, and from a fundamental standpoint, it's because the cells, stop functioning properly. If we're a trillion cells, if they start breaking down, that is the root cause of our breakdown. From a hormonal level, our thoughts, our actions are all dictated by chemicals. Our movements are dictated by chemicals and movements. So how do we build resiliency? And that's as my practice continues to evolve, that's kind of where I'm morphing into. We talk about a lot of buzz around functional medicine right now, right? On social media, and what does that mean, right? A lot of things we break down into is it a fracture in this gene code? Is it this? And then it's like, well, take this supplement, or they take that supplement, and then where do the supplements become just a different pill, right? When does magnesium become Tylenol? Right. And so looking into, that's why I have the sauna, I have a red light, cold plunge, the weights to build, cellular resiliency, and to try to get us functioning from a cellular level. And the studies are coming out, with all of these therapies that are just great. And I'm going to start, most people have wearable devices, and the data we get from that, we look at, okay, what's your sleep score? And we look at like one set of data and be like, oh, okay, HRV, and we start talking about all this stuff, but what does it mean? On a whole, what does it mean? Right. So pretty soon I'm going to be launching a program in the spring that all your wearable data will be, if you choose to take this on, is uploaded into a program. And then from that program, we can start making actual wellness, protocols. And I'm not talking about just exercise. I'm talking about, being in the sun for X amount of time, walking in the grass, and on what, just how do we make fundamental wellness changes where the whole person, emotional, physical, can start being, functioning at a higher level.
I think that's great. I think that's where wearables have fallen short. And they are coming a long way. Like our friend Katie, she's big on, data and feedback. And so she's really into looking at her Whoop score, her sleep score, all that stuff. But at first when it came out, it's like, what's your HRV? And that's all it really gave you. But now it's tracking all sorts of things. And it's someone that knows how to read that data can develop a plan. Right. Like you're saying.
Right. And it's, the company that I'm pairing with, they, they have the computer algorithms, to kind of put it all together, because it's, like all data, it's too much, but we have all of this supercomputing now. So how do we use that for good and not bad? And how do we take that data and then create a subset of things that are attainable and changeable for people, rather than just, how did you sleep last night, or how do you feel now?
Well, I think it's great to incorporate, the sunlight and the touching grass and all that too, because a lot of the wearables or the assessment devices or the technology that's coming out is purely physical.
Correct.
Right. And so like we talked about, there's that whole mental aspect of it too. And I think, just a meditation practice or a nature walk or any kind of thing like that can affect your HRV as well, can affect your nervous system.
All of it.
All of it. So we got to take that into account.
It's all about resiliency, and if we are resilient, then we don't get sick. We don't we will break down less. And not only that, but it's your experience during this time will change. I posted something, reposted something on Intrinsic Instagram the other day that I don't normally go down this road, but it's coming. And the guy was, I don't even know who it was, but talking about the difference between heaven and hell, and it being here now, in your head or not in your head. And when we talk about that, being stuck in the past or fear in the future, and that constant turmoil that's in our brain, if we're stuck in that, that is hell on earth. Right. And if you can find that peace, that's heaven on earth. And with that, how do our bodies respond? If we're in constant turmoil, well, what do you think the musculoskeletal system is going to do? Right.
I was listening to Thich Nhat Hanh, who's a Buddhist guy, and he has many books, but he said that nirvana, which is what everybody thinks kind of is the equivalent to heaven, is actually, the word just means a relief of pain. A relief from suffering. And that can be achievable in the here and now.
In the here and now. That's where, people waiting to cross over, if you will, till they find peace, I think is a man-made concept.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that personally, again, I don't want to offend anyone, right? But for me personally, finding that peace now and not the constant this or that in your brain is peace.
Yeah.
And in that motion, in that peace, the body can regulate and be the flow that it needs to for the longevity.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you're in turmoil, you're in constant stress.
Yeah.
And if you're in constant stress, then the breakdown is just accelerates. And that's that's what I think we're heading towards. I know we're heading towards.
Yeah. So then that leads us back to the preventative care, right? From a more holistic approach. I think one of the problems, besides waiting till the acute thing happens to be treated, is doctors, in my opinion, that I've seen and heard about, are kind of singularly trained, right? And they just want to give you a pill to help you, and they can refer out, sure, to other folks that have different practices. But do you see medical doctors? Do you see them starting to move with a more holistic approach in the future?
No.
I
don't. I think what we've done is become such, and I'm very much in the medical realm. Like some of my best buddies, right? Great doctors.
Yeah.
Everything is becoming hyper focused.
Yeah.
Right. So you go to med school, then you do your rotations, and then you match your rotations, and then you become a specialty. But then in the specialty, then you do your fellowship for your subspecialty.
Yeah.
So then now we have the experts on someone who can treat, an area of the most narrow focus, which is phenomenal.
Sure.
But anything beyond that narrow focus is they don't know.
Yeah.
And they don't have the ability of time to look.
Yeah.
Because they are under tremendous control financially.
Yeah.
Right. And and this is getting down a whole new ballgame, but what we're looking at is, very shortly we're going to have 3 separate healthcare systems in America, 3 hospitals that control everything.
Yeah.
And most of them are run by money guys, not by medical guys.
Yeah.
So when you go to the doctor and you have to wait an hour and a half and they're so stressed behind, it's not their fault. Yeah. No one wants to do that.
Right.
They don't want, that is not a good life for them. They don't want to do that. And, the frustration of their hands being tied are significant.
Yeah.
And then even if they want to, forget about downstream revenue that they get, right? But even if they want to back it out, then if they refer out, the patient has to wait 8-10 weeks to get in with the other provider.
Yeah.
By the end of it, the patient is so frustrated, the doctor forgets, and and it's not. All of the doctors that I know are great human beings, and it's frustrating to them.
Yeah.
But it is not. Everything is getting way more hyper focused, and at some point, there's got to be a finite where that kind of explodes. I just don't see it on the forefront.
Yeah.
I see society, especially with social media, huge shift.
Yeah.
Huge shift. Looking for more. And, and that's why I'm going down this road, so I can do blood work and do this more functional whole body stuff.
Yes.
Because getting in with your primary, getting any actual answers doesn't happen.
Yeah, I know it was tough for me. You kind of have to do the old wink and nod with your doctor to get a full blood panel, a hormone panel or anything, because unless there's something wrong, their hands are tied. They can't really do anything.
Correct.
So you got to kind of create a problem and, to get blood work. And then you get the blood work back and they're like, oh, looks good.
Yeah. Because they don't know. Right. And that's, and getting, the norms are so wide.
Yeah.
And, you could be having signs of a problem in the norm.
Yeah.
And again, back to being busy, most doctors are so busy. Yeah. They see the same thing you see. Okay. Everything is green. You're good.
Yeah.
Well, am I?
Yeah. What about my goals and what I want to achieve and everything? Are they good for that?
Right. So, I think in the next few years, we will see a subset of providers that are not, probably not MDs that are taking on more of a role of being able to look at the whole body, but then hopefully have the ability to, if they see something that is beyond the expertise, then we know, okay, now go see this specialist.
Yeah.
And for me, I know that when I refer a patient out, my hope is that where I send them to is a fit, right? And the doctors who I deal with, we work well together because when I send them, they are a fit.
Yeah.
If I send someone to a spine surgeon, there's a good chance they need surgery.
Yeah.
Right. And so they love that because it's less BS for them, and they know if they're coming from me, they've already been prehabilitated. So the surgical outcomes are so much better.
Yeah.
Because we're already dealing with the environment. Now they just need to fix the end problem and we're good.
Yeah.
And so that symbiotic relationship works really, really well.
Yeah.
It's just, finding, people in the right realm, that you get to.
Yeah.
Sending someone, to a provider because you don't know, that doesn't work out so well.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And then not knowing that provider,
right,
necessarily.
Right.
Like you don't know their practice that well. You don't
Right.
know how good they are. It's
Right.
just like, oh, this person's in my.
Right. And cutting to the chase, when you have, a strong referral system like I do,
Yeah.
I can just text someone and say, hey, sending this to you, check this out, please.
Yeah.
And they'll talk back, yeah, man, this doesn't fit me. Here's what I think, let's try this. Or if we need, some medication to reduce inflammation quickly, hey, can you put the patient on this to open up a window so I can work with them?
Yeah.
And that, I love that portion of what I do with other providers.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily, it'd be hard to have one person that knows all the answers.
Can't.
But having a community that you can refer to.
Correct.
It takes a village,
Yes.
to raise somebody or to heal somebody.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Yeah. Or, and say, look, I'm at a loss here, man. Can you, can you put eyes on this?
Yeah.
And so it is, so just like not being a personal island, you don't, I don't want to be a provider island.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not the end all be all. If I can't figure something out, let's get people who can and have that circle that, I think this person, has seen this before. Let's check it out.
Yeah.
And that gives me tremendous comfort, and obviously the patients as well.
Do you ever get tied down with the ability to refer, like,
No.
by the system, by like insurance and stuff?
Well, I don't take insurance, and that's the key difference between this practice and my old practice.
Yeah.
Because that is the death.
Yeah.
Right. So
I find a lot of NPs are being certified in different aspects of health, and they're not going through insurance because it's just too much of a hassle.
Absolutely. It's too much. It's your hands are tied.
Yeah.
Right. And I can't, we all know that, there's someone without any experience that's, and I know they need work, but is behind a desk making decisions on people's life or death.
Yeah.
Or not life or death in my part, but pain or not pain.
Yeah.
Right.
That should be enough.
And holding up the problems, and and the system is broken.
Yeah.
And so so not being in the system, I don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the only downfall is that people who can't afford it.
So that is the only downfall. My that's why I keep it flat rate at $60 no matter what I do.
Yeah.
Because that's typically what someone's copay is to go to PT or chiro.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. To try to keep it affordable.
Yeah.
And I will always try to keep it affordable. Because again, it's not about the money.
Right.
I need to live. I need to support this. But it's just there's just too much greed out there.
Yeah.
So I try to provide the best product I can for a no BS. Here's what you're going to pay. I don't do treatment plans.
Yeah.
You pay at the time of service. And that's it.
Yeah.
It's simple.
And the value's there. You're not just doing adjustments. You're giving this holistic education. You're checking in on a number of different aspects with the health, like we just talked about.
Yeah.
You're doing a bit of exercise work here. You've got sauna and cold plunge
we
here.
do. From it goes. So what I say is, function first. Change function. Add strength. Right. Clean up the mess. The mess is typically scar tissue. So I have ultrasound, therapeutic or muscle stimulation, galvanic ultrasound. I use scraping. I do some cupping. I use massage gun. I use, I'm fully certified in active release or ART for muscle work. So I try to stay up on everything possible. But the wellness package here, which is, you can come use the sauna, red light therapy, and the cold plunge, and the exercise equipment is only $90 a month, unlimited. Nice. That includes one maintenance visit.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, nice.
So you're really paying $30 a month to come use the wellness package, because I just want people to, get better.
Yeah.
And it is amazing with, especially the females that are doing the wellness, the reduction in anxiety.
Yeah. Well, it's just that self-care practice that kind of helps.
It's a resilience.
Yeah. You've got the cold plunge and sauna.
Yeah.
That's like kind of a buzz thing that's happening now. People are loving that.
Yeah.
The past year or so, it's been big. You see places opening up. What are some of the benefits of cold plunge?
Again, it's all so inflammatory, cellular resilience, the endorphins, the chemical reactions. It's the flushing of, especially going from infrared sauna, to the cold plunge. And really it goes, the preferred is red light therapy, then sauna, then cold plunge. And it's just that cellular activation. It's getting the mitochondria to fire.
Yeah.
And getting rid of all the toxins.
Yeah.
And the bonus of the cold plunge is brown fat activation. So there's a caloric burn.
Yeah.
So people love that.
Yeah.
And that's
Sure.
Everyone likes to lose some calories for free. But and also what I find too is what it does is it allows people to be around. This place is actually pretty fun.
Yeah.
It's there's always interactions. I don't have doors on any of the treatment rooms, so there's always conversations going on and I love that. Again, not being an island and having everyone, this community aspect.
Yes.
Is huge.
Yeah. I know I've used that cold plunge. I told you to set it at 45 for me, and that was cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've been doing it for a while now. Not on any regular basis, more as needed.
Yeah.
But I find beyond the physical, like I came in here because I ran 10 miles and my legs were destroyed, and it helped with the inflammation. It helped with the recovery, but there's something mental about sitting in there. I say, okay, I'm going to do it for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And when I get out, I feel proud of myself for doing it.
Yes.
And I feel this rush of like, holy crap, that was so intense and powerful. And I feel brand new when I step out. Yeah. It's amazing.
It's amazing. It's I did a modified version of the Chad yesterday.
Oh yeah.
I was in Atlanta. My
Savage
son,
Sunday.
Yeah, my son had a swim meet, and so I couldn't join Savage Sunday. So I grabbed 35-pound dumbbells, and it's a 5-story hotel.
Oh,
so I did the stairs.
Nice.
With the weights. It was like a modified, and my calves are smoked.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to get in it today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're part of the Savage Sunday crew. There's a bunch of us that get out
Great
on
people.
the track and do workouts once or twice a month. I had to buy our mutual friend Katie Tansey. She's great. Shout out, Katie.
Shout out for sure.
You guys all just recently did a High Rocks.
Yes.
So how was that? Tell me about that experience.
Oh my gosh, that was fantastic.
The video you had, the poster that I commented, you were doing the rower and it looked like you were out of body.
I was. Recently, in the last year or so, my girlfriend owns Saratoga Sweat, right? So I've been doing a lot of Bikram yoga.
Yeah.
And getting into this mental practice of moving meditation.
Yeah.
And when you're in the pain cave, right, and you can separate out your mental from your physical.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you're seeing. So in that race, whether it be disassociation, proper or improper, however it may be, getting to a place where my body was moving, even though my ego brain was trying to tell me to stop.
Oh yeah.
And that's what certainly love about sports like that and doing things like that. So I look forward to the next one. But that's even on the runs, it was set up in Boston, so in the convention center. So they have the bathroom signs that when you're at a convention, so you can see where the bathroom is from wherever far away.
Yeah.
So every kind of, if you get every turn, I'm just staring at the next and just literally praying as I'm moving, and just, just getting my mental to a different place.
Yeah.
And, I do, that's part of the beauty of it.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
The places your mind goes when you're at those peaks of performance.
Right.
That could be a whole podcast on its own.
It's that plays into being present and living in the now, right?
Yeah.
Those of us who, and I have a long history of endurance sports, and there's a lot of people who do endurance sports that we know that have trauma. We all have trauma.
Yeah.
But it's being at that peak of threshold where you cannot think of anything else, right? And that's the addiction.
Yeah.
So then the question becomes, if we need to do the sport to get to that place, what if we could get to that place daily without that?
Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of where my personal quest has become.
Yeah.
How do I get in that place where I am there, but not putting myself in tremendous pain to get there?
Yeah.
But I do love putting myself in tremendous pain.
Yeah. Yeah. That's that type 2 fun or whatever. Right. But yeah, I think, putting yourself intentionally into tough spots will help you develop that mental resiliency.
Right.
And you can use that in other aspects, whether it be business or
Correct.
family relationships. Shit gets tough. Shit gets hard.
Life is real.
And you have to be able to kind of compartmentalize and separate, or whatever it is that works for you. And you won't get to that point unless you've tested yourself. Right. And so these sporting events, I just did the half marathon. It was like mostly
it's groomed too, right?
Yeah,
crazy.
All uphill, dude. It was crazy. The last like 8 miles was uphill. And I got to a point where it was like a breaking point, and my goal was to do a sub 2, and I beat it by 5 seconds. I got there. Yeah.
Awesome.
But there were so many points along the hills, like the last, I'd say 3 miles, where I was like, holy shit, I can't do this. My body's telling me no, my mind is telling me no, but I just kept going, And so that sort of thing is, I'll face that at work sometimes when I've got a checklist that's a mile long. And I'm like, all right, what are we going to do? Well, you just got to keep pushing for it.
That's it. And building that resiliency is how you do it.
Yeah.
And that's, and there's so many things in life. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Like, turn off the ego brain, get it done. And when you do those, those things on the daily, or you do Bikram, like I just made it through 90 minutes of this yoga that is so not difficult to do, but you have to stay so focused.
Yeah.
So then anything beyond that day is like, okay, no problem.
It's a cakewalk.
Yeah. And really, as you learn to separate out what's a real problem and what's a fictitious problem.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, really the goal in life is what is really the problem right now?
Yeah.
And typically the answer is nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the Stoic belief of like what's in your control and what's not. And if it's not in your control, then
that's it.
Let it go.
Let it go.
Yeah. We're going to wrap up, but I do have one last question for you. It's something I ask all my guests. It's the last meal question. So if for any reason you were on death row and you got to choose one last meal, it could be as much of anything as you wanted. It could be a bunch of different things. Typically, it's been some sort of comfort food for folks. But what would your last meal be?
I'm going medium rare ribeye with some Brussels sprouts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's some good air fried Brussels sprouts, a little balsamic.
Yeah.
That's nice. With the steak done right.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, I'm in it.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I love it. That's mine. That's part of mine. Mine is like a full breakfast. I want a steak. I want hash browns, eggs, sausage patties, blueberry pancakes, and a never-ending beer, like a cold beer.
I love it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'll definitely have an IPA with that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Cool, man. Well, it was great talking to you. Thanks for coming on. If anybody wants to reach out to you with questions or wants to come in and see you, where can they get a hold of you?
So the website is intrinsic-chiropractic.com. They can call the office at 886-9507, or I welcome anyone to reach out to myself, 518-708-4560. You can text me, you can call me. I'm always available, even if you think it's a bullshit question, even if you don't plan on coming in. I'm happy to help however I can help. Truly.
That's great. Good man.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, great.
Dr. Craig Nelson. Stay healthy, my friends.
Boom. Do it.